All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I'd go on here real fast and fix this camera. All right, I want to touch base on the Idaho 4 case. Uh, they're pushing that Maddie was the target. So, if that's the case and she was the target, it's not explaining some of the things that went down that night. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, why, why did he have to do whatever to the other people? Well, I imagine they got in the way or something, right? Of course, he had to kill Kaylee, right? Because she was in the same room as Maddie, right? Maybe the lights were off. Maybe he just walked in and thought she was, Kaylee was the first one or whatever, was Maddie. There could have been a mix up. But here's the thing, they're all suspects. Every single one of them are still suspect. All the people that were at the food truck that she talked to, if Maddie was the target, it would explain a couple things. Who would have pissed her? Who did she piss off? Well, you got to look at the food truck people, because we know for a fact that there was an altercation at the food truck with bushy eyebrow Joe, crazy eye, Jibola or whatever his name. So these people are suspect actually still. And here's the thing: if it is what we think it is, it's probably bigger. It's we know that it's probably more than one person that orchestrated this, and it could have been orchestrated very fast, right? Meaning within an hour, within 30 minutes, somebody attacked that house. But what still ain't making sense is the time within the murders. I believe the were already done by 4 o'clock or 4:30 or whatever. That's what I believe. Uh, I know they're. I think they're going off of data, phone data that they tried to get a hold of Jack, right? Kaylee's boyfriend, Jack, or whatever. But indeed, we might be seeing that they were already dead, and somebody was using their phone, right? So if now I know Steve Gonzalez or whatever his name is saying that she was the target or whatever. Well, then that means she pissed somebody off uh, that night, right? For these people to do that, and it don't take long, folks, to orchestrate a murder, especially when someone pisses you off or you don't like somebody, whatever. It don't take a lot, and we don't know if it's true what they're saying about all the drugs around there and drugs being involved and all this and that. Maybe. But here's the bottom line: they all should stay and remain suspects until the case is over with. Brian Kohlberger might not have been there. They're saying, right? He might be innocent. Maybe, we don't know. Do I think he is? No, I think he probably played a role in this somewhere. Maybe Brian Kohlberger was a hitman for drugs or whatever, or for this you know frat or little organization within the a lot of drugs go through colleges, folks. I mean, that's the main That's the main thing. We got to look at the people that own the house. You know, you got to look at the people that are saying one of the girls' mother was a drug dealer wrapped up in the drugs. It might be. It might be one of the food truck people. That they're all still suspects. They got one of them. And what plate? Why do they have him? You know, I was watching Harsh Reality channel, and he was saying, "Do you think Brian Kohlberger would have been guilty or picked up? And did they do it wrong? Right? Should they have questioned and then released him and see what he did or whatever?" Well, the only thing that puts Brian Kohlberger there is the sheath, his DNA, right? If it wasn't for that, they probably don't have enough evidence, right? If they just went by phone data, it's probably just not enough to convict. But what was the conviction? The knife sheath. That's why they picked him up right away. Of course, they had to wait for DNA and lab and everything to come back, and and then once they got that, they went after him. Here's the thing: Brian Kohlberger might have owned that knife. He might have bought that knife, but in the same breath, he might have sold that knife, or someone might have stole it from him. Whatever, that would explain his DNA, or he might have borrowed it to somebody or whatever. But they keep pushing that this little Maddie was the target. Well, then I would have to say Maddie must have pissed somebody off, right? And it still don't explain why he killed 3 other people, right? I don't know. That just don't see. Usually in a case like that, say Maddie pissed off somebody, they want her gone. The killer or the shooter would have went in, shot her. If somebody was laying next to her, stabbed her or whatever, they probably would have killed them too, right? Just so there's no witness or whatever. And they would have been out of there, gone, split. There was no need to go anywhere else. Downstairs, kill anybody else. If that was the main target and their mission was accomplished, there was no need to kill anybody else. They should have got out of there. But they didn't. Why? Well, it's possible someone's seen them. The way to make it out of that house was to kill the people. But that ain't making sense, because if someone's seen them and they took off and bolted to their bedroom screaming someone's here, don't you think the killer or killers would have boot scoop boogied out there? Oh my God, someone's seen me. They're going to call the police. I'm out of here. It didn't happen that way. So this whole thing with Maddie being a target, maybe if she pissed somebody off, but it don't explain why he killed 3 other people. I could see how he killed Kaylee if Kaylee was sleeping in the same bed as Maddie, right? They both had to go. But that's where the mission stopped, and he should have walked out of there. But it didn't, right? He went into another room and killed people. The only reason for him to do that is they must have seen him, right? And I do believe if he didn't know there was other people in the house, I believe he would have killed them too. Right? There's a good chance, I'm thinking, we're starting to see this with a lot of these cases where these people are already dead and there's other people using their cell phones. That's possible too. The time gap from the murders to when they called the police Everyone's like, well, it's such a big time gap, and why didn't they call the police, and why didn't they do this and do that and do this and do that? Well, probably maybe they wanted to make sure they were dead, right? The longer time you could one of them been saved, a couple of them probably if they would have got help right away. But in that kind of world or whatever, uh, maybe the plan was to make sure they were dead and bleed out. We don't know. Do I think one of them was the main target in there? Well, it could have been, like I was saying, it could have been like harsh reality saying, but it don't make sense, right? I think this was bigger than what people are thinking, and the option and the other only other scenario is someone seen him as he was killing or doing something, and the other two people had to go. Because I agree with a lot of people. If he was there and Maddie was the target, his mission was accomplished. There was no need for him to do anything else but leave the house, right? He got his target, the one he wanted dead, Maddie or whatever. Supposedly they're all saying Maddie was the target. We can we can explain Kaylee was killed because she was in the same bed as Maddie. So therefore it probably spooked him, he killed her, whatever. And but after that, he should have been out of there. But he didn't. He stuck around and killed two more people. And I believe maybe if he would have known there was other people there, or that seen him, this other roommate, she would have been dead. So this whole thing that there was one target, I don't know, kind of fishy. But if she pissed somebody off, well, we do know that she was had an altercation at the food truck place. So anybody that she had talked to at the food truck place uh, could now be suspects. Right? We know Brian Kohlberger plays a part somewhere. Harsh reality saying, was there enough evidence to lock up Kohlberger from just Kohlberger's excuse that he gave? He was driving around. Well, they wouldn't have been able to hold him if that was the case. They would have had to release him because they had no proof. They would have had to release him and wait for data to come back on his phone and other things, right? If they were investigating him. But the key thing is why did they go after him right away? Not bring him in, question him, or any of that. Well, because they probably had the the knife sheath and was waiting for the DNA test and everything, lab work and everything to come back. Once they got it and it pointed towards Brian Kohlberger, they probably went after him. That don't mean he's the killer. See, Brian Kohlberger didn't handle it the right way. He probably should have came clean with everything, right? Hey, I was driving around. You know, if the police said, well, we got a knife sheath that's got your DNA on it. If I was Brian Kohlberger, I would have explained, hey, I bought that knife and uh, that is my knife, but hey, I sold it to somebody, yada, 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 or I let someone borrow it, or someone stole that from me 6 months ago, right? I don't know. It's hard to believe if there was just one target. That little Maddie, if she was the target, she pissed somebody off. Somebody didn't like her. I think they got the timeline wrong on the murders. I think they were dead before that. I'm guessing probably about 2:30, 3 o'clock, somewhere around there. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, that don't explain anything because they were messaging at 3 o'clock. They could have been dead. We've seen this in the Gabby Petito case, right? She was dead weeks before anyone got wind, right? I think actually the autopsy showed she was dead for 3 weeks, but yet her phone was messaging people. Someone was messaging people with her phone. But the autopsy said she was dead. She was dead a month, they're saying. So Brian had her phone and was using it. Now, could we be seeing something like that in the Idaho 4 case where they were already dead? Somebody was using the phone to make it look like they were alive. That's possible. All I can say is they're all suspects still. All the people at the food truck that Maddie and Kaylee came in contact with. There was an altercation at the food truck. All the boyfriends and the people in the house are still suspect in the case until it's closed. Brian Kohlberger is involved in this case because the knife sheath and the DNA. And I believe probably he was there. I wouldn't doubt it if he's done other crimes, possibly. Once, he was a druggie. We know that. They also found other people's IDs in his apartment. You got to explain that, folks. Right? You got to explain that. Brian Kohlberger might have been a hitman. Very possible. I don't know, but a lot of questions need to be asked. Like I said, it's very fishy. Very fishy. But for her to be just the main target, she must have pissed somebody off. We keep hearing bushy eyebrows, right? Anywhere from 5'10" to 6 foot or 5'9" or whatever. The guy was 5'10" or 6 foot. Maybe, I don't know. Like I said, they're all suspects still. It don't explain if he was on a mission and it was a targeted attack. I think the whole house was a target, really. But they're saying, no, it was just Maddie. We believe Maddie was the target or whatever. Well, then she pissed somebody off. Right? You would think. Wild case. See, that's the thing that people ain't seeing is it's not explaining the evidence they found in Kohlberger's apartment. If Brian Kohlberger is not a killer, why does he have stolen property and IDs in his possession in his apartment? Now, these people put that video out that they found numerous IDs or whatever in Brian Kohlberger's apartment, a .40 caliber weapon, and some other things, right? A white powdery substance or whatever. What happened to all them videos? Where'd they go? Very interesting. It ain't over yet, folks. It might be bigger than what we know. But I'm thinking the timeline was wrong. And I'm thinking we might have a situation where the girls might have already been dead. And somebody was using their phone to make it look like they were alive. Why? Well, to get the story straight, clean up, or whatever it was. How do you not see blood everywhere? How do you when after the murders went down? How do you not see blood everywhere? Right? Because you're not gonna go walking through the house in the dark, right? So I imagine once the roommates seen the perpetrator leave, I imagine she would have turned on the lights so they can see. I imagine there would have been blood, right? Somewhere on the door handles, whatever, of where the two people were that they were trying to get into the room. They thought people were passed out. So it don't explain a lot of it. I don't know. Kind of crazy if you ask me. Really is. But they all remain suspect. And you know what? Here's the thing is these people don't realize. I was watching Harsh Reality and he said, well, the police came out and said these people have nothing to do with it. And they're not going to come out and say they do have something to do with it. And we're investigating that person. We haven't brought them in yet, but we're watching them. They're not going to say that. We've seen that in so many cases. They'll lie to you and say these people have nothing to do with anything. Why? So they can investigate you. So they can watch you without you knowing that they're watching you. And I believe they were watching Brian Kohlberger way before the Idaho 4 case, tied in with other cases that fit the MO of the Idaho 4. Is it possible he was a traveling killer? Maybe. It's possible he's perfectly innocent. Right? That's what people are saying. He's perfectly innocent. Wasn't him. Well, then explain the IDs. He had IDs in his possession from other people that did not belong to him. Explain that, folks. And I didn't make that up. Them are videos that these people put out. That's what they found in Brian Kohlberger's apartment was a bunch of IDs and a weapon and white powdery substance or whatever. And it's all starting to make sense. Maybe. It could be because what did Katie or Maddie say at the food truck? We would never F you, mister. Right? What was she talking about? Literally having sex or drugs? We wouldn't mess you around like that. Right? Meaning like we'd pay you the money or whatever for the drugs or whatever. Possible. I don't know. And it's also possible that neither one of these girls did drugs, but someone else in that house did. And this is the repercussions. They got the wrong people or whatever. Possible. Very possible. Well, we know we got Brian Kohlberger. Okay. We know we got him. Why? Because his DNA was on the sheet. He's gonna he's gonna have to explain how that DNA got there. On that sheath, whether he owned that knife or not. Now he's got to explain it. But he wants to be a superstar. He wants it to go into trial so he can make it look good. So he could turn around and sue the university and sue the state, right? And become a billionaire. Right? It's still don't. You know what, Brian Kohlberger? Okay, you didn't have anything to do with the Idaho 4. We want you to explain where the other IDs came in your apartment. Explain them. Where'd they come from? Why do you have them? They don't belong to you. Why do you have them in your possession? And I do believe some of them IDs, a couple of the people were dead. So explain that. Because everybody's saying they got the wrong guy. It's not Brian Kohlberger. It was the wrong guy. We'll explain. If Brian Kohlberger is innocent of the Idaho 4 case, explain the other IDs that were found in Brian Kohlberger's apartment. And some of the people were deceased. Now, could Brian Kohlberger have used the IDs for people that he fronted drugs to? Right? I'm not going to front you drugs unless you give me your driver's license. Right? When you come back and pay for the drugs, you get your driver's license back. Well, maybe. But it still don't explain a lot of things. We'll have to play this one out and see what happens. I don't know why he would, they always want to play the super. I think Brian Kohlberger is way in over his head. He's gonna have to explain the route that he drove. Where were you that night? What route did you drive? Show us here's a map. Show us exactly what you did that night, where you were. He's going to have to show exactly the route that he drove at night. Okay? And then when he does show that route, then we got him, because then we can look on cameras, store cameras, hotel cameras, gas stations, stoplights, and that'll prove, well, you didn't take that route. And here's why, because we got 5 cameras right here on this road, and not one of them picked you up going past them at that time. Right? He's got himself into a pickle, and then he's going to have to explain the IDs that were found in his apartment. Where'd they come from? How'd you get them? So Brian Kohlberger might not be the killer of Idaho 4, these people are saying. No, he might not be. He might have been set up. But here's the thing. Now he's got to explain the white powder in his apartment. And now he's got to explain the IDs that were found in his apartment and the other stuff that was found in his apartment. Now he's got to explain that. See, they might not have them fully, 100% proof yet, but they might have them on other crimes that they couldn't connect, right? That they were waiting for DNA. That the MOs were similar. Maybe. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. It might be bigger. You know what, folks? We always find out in the end that it was bigger than what we thought. Right? There's a lot of people around there talking about drugs or whatever. It could have been this frat drug cartel or whatever. Maybe. We don't know. We don't know what kind of lives these ladies live. You know, one of them was getting ready to leave and go to Texas, right? Did they want to kill her before she left? Did she know something, right? Did they owe money? Did she know something? Was it a jealous boyfriend, right? You ain't leaving me, and killed her before she left. Maybe. It'll all come out in court, folks. A lot of people are saying Brian Kohlberger should be released, that this case will be dismissed. I don't think so. Explain how the sheath got there. Brian Kohlberger ain't going nowhere until he explains how the sheath got there and how his DNA is on that sheath. You just can't say, well, it's a mistrial and we want this all taken. No, 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 no. It don't work that way, right? It don't work that way, folks. That's not the way the law works. We're going to dismiss this case because no. First, you've got to explain how the DNA got on that knife sheath, and you're going to have to explain where you were that night, and you're going to have stone cold proof, either eyewitness or a camera that places you at the place you say. You just can't let them go. It's a mistrial. We don't. No, it don't work that way. We all wish it would work that way, but it don't. Not in the court of law. So he's going to have to explain how the knife sheath got there and his DNA on it, whether he sold it, whether someone stole it, yada 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 yada, whatever. He's going to have to explain it. You can't just dismiss it, right? You got his DNA. You got a link there. So somewhere you got to investigate that. Why he didn't? If he's innocent and he didn't explain what was going on because he thinks he's some kind of a super criminology lawyer or whatever, he's an idiot. All right. I've had enough of that. We got some clouds coming in. I got a couple things to do. I'll be back. Ooh, I got a hawk flying around out there. Not like I said, folks. This might be bigger than what we thought. Brian Kohlberger might not be Idaho 4 guy, they're saying, right? Might not be the killer. Well, then he's got to explain a lot of things. Where'd the other IDs come from in his apartment? Right? A lot of explaining that's got. You just can't let him go without knowing, without having an explanation of how the sheath got there and how the DNA got on the sheath. So all this stuff, it's going to be dismissed, and they're asking for a dismissal, and I don't think so. You still got a lot of explaining to do. All right, folks, have a great day. Keep an eye on the weather, and God bless everyone. Lord, thanks for another day. We got some clouds out there. Being a little bit under the weather, although I was around a couple people that were sick, and well, then I had to go over to my mother's yesterday and get some. She cooked up some food. And of course, everybody over there touching me and everything. I'll be all right. But if this is the case in the Idaho 4 case, then they're all still suspects. Food truck people, anyone that she talked to, all the ex-boyfriends, the neighbor, the one guy that claimed that he walked past the door at early in the morning and it was wide open. They're all suspects still. Case ain't even closed. Still an ongoing case. All right, folks, have a great day. God bless you all. Well, I wanted to see if YouTube is working again. You know, a lot of people are saying something that somebody was trying to hack people's computers or something in the crime community. Yep, I got a lot of people in there now. So they must be going through things. Yeah. Oh, hey, I can see my mods now. Glory be to YouTube. All glory goes to you. No, I can't say that. All glory goes to God. All right, so now we're getting back to normal here on YouTube. All right, folks, have a great day. What a beautiful, look at the puffy, big, giant cloud. Skies are just bluer than blue. Giant, puffy, white clouds. They look like rain clouds, soon to be rain clouds. I don't know, folks. Don't take anything off of the table in the Idaho 4 case. Uh, I do agree with Steve Gonzalez. If one of them was the target, why did they have to kill the other ones? Well, we know why Kaylee had to die. If she was in the same room, same bed as Maddie, it's that old saying, kill two birds with one stone, right? She probably woke up in the commotion. She had to go, right? If you're thinking as a killer. But the other two people, well, he's right about that. He didn't have to go do anything. And here's the thing, we don't know what ones were killed first, right? We don't know. Maddie and Kaylee came home at 2 o'clock or something like that in the morning. For all we know, the other two people were already dead. And they were waiting for Maddie and Kaylee to come, right? Or it's the other way around. Kaylee and Maddie came home, the killer came in to kill them, and the other two were just getting home or whatever, or seen them or whatever, and they had to go. Something ain't adding up here in this. Is it possible there was more than one killer? Yeah, it's possible. One went upstairs and the other one stayed and took care of the other two, right? It's possible. A lot of unanswered questions, but for these people to say, well, Brian Kohlberger is asking for a dismissal of the case, it just, no. He would have to explain, it would have to go in, he would have to explain where the knife sheath came from. If he did sell it, if someone stole it, whatever, that would explain his DNA on it. But just not explaining anything and then to let him go, it don't work that way. So we'll have to see what's going on. You folks have a great day. Be safe. Keep an eye on the weather and your children and your families.